Hello, everybody. Welcome to race 5 out of 6. We are here at Suzuka Circuit, Japan. Quick 30-minute race, and we have a tie at the top of our point leaderboards. My name's Sean Stam. Welcome to Stam Studio Network. I am joined by the one, the only, Toka. How's it going?
Hello, everybody. It's super exciting being here today, especially considering the situation of this iRTES championship powered by Championship Motorsports Porsche Cup here. I mean, the situation is pretty interesting, right? Sean, have two drivers at the lead at the top of the points leaderboard, both tied at 109 points each. Enrico Gregorato and Chad Henson. Right behind them is, of course, Michael Parker at 99 points. But these two are basically clear ahead here as we head into the penultimate round of the season.
Going to come down to the wire as, yes, you see that tie between Enrico, Chad Henson up there. Like you mentioned, we do have Michael Parker up there as well as Mark Johnson, Jarrett Skinner up there in the points. But going to be hard to catch these top two runners, and cannot forget what these guys are running for in this championship. Look at, going to have a full resin gold driver trophy. Going to be, I mean, I don't know about you, Toka, but I would be fighting my life for that thing. Have it up on the trophy shelf. Thanks for everybody joining today as we're just about to kick this thing off. Great day for racing at this, man, 5.8 kilometer, that's 3.6 mile long circuit. Who other? Michael Parker, gonna slap it on the pole. Mark Johnson, Gab Chavez, Chad Henson, P4, Enrico, P5. Gonna watch these guys on the start. Brett Stevens, Donald Cepek, Mark Reed, David Anderson, Anna Marie, and that number 18, Warren McGarry. And the rest of the drivers will follow respectively as, man, we got to cut to track side. This race just about to kick off. Perfect timing for our race here today. Michael Parker, we're going to have a rolling start. Doesn't look like a whole lap, thankfully, as that would take forever to get around. Just a quick rolling just for maybe a half a kilometer or so. So, man, Toka, going to be hard to get these tires up to temperature, up to pressure.
Yeah, and absolutely watch out also for that orange zone that's from the start finish line all the way to corner number 11. That's their hairpin right before 200R. So
Ooh,
if you
appreciate you
get
pointing
into
that
any
out.
incidents within that orange zone, that's a almost, I think, a double penalty situation. So it just kind of discourages drivers from racing too hard from the start. But after that, it's fully on.
Man, and I so appreciate David for that. I know some leagues that have actually adopted that kind of mindset of, orange zone between those first couple of turns. Because, I mean, shoot, you spent so much time, effort to try and get to where you're at, practicing as well, and then just for it to go all out in that first corner, it always sucks. So bring it up because, shoot, my league, GT4 versus NASCAR, David, if you don't mind, might have to adopt the old orange flag for ourselves. It's going to be interesting to see Michael Parker, Mark Johnson, Gab Chavez take us to the green flag here in Suzuka, Japan. Lights are out on that iRacing safety car. We're going to dive for safety. Field is in it. Michael Parker's hands. Lights out, waiting for that green flag, and away they will go. A little bit of a hesitate start there, and Michael Parker waiting for it. Here we go, up through the gears, and away they head into turn one. Oh, we're getting three wide already. So much for an orange zone. Already contact. Mark Reed going to go around. Man, Toka, love that you brought up that orange zone, but already turn one, seeing an incident. Mark Reed going around. We'll take a look at it in just a sec. These drivers still trying to fan out, get more single file now as they head up toward turns 3, 4, now turn 5.
It's a little bit of technical difficulties here. We'll go over the incident very soon as I get feet up for myself here.
Oh boy. It's always nice. As we see Chad Henson going at it here. There you go, Toka.
All right.
Apologies there. So we already have quite a few incidents on just this first lap, but we'll take a look at that start and where it all went wrong for Mark Reed here. Ooh, that's a little late. Gonna back it up just a little bit so we can kind of dissect it. That's 3 wide, heading into an orange zone. Turn 1 just gets tagged as it kind of sets back down to 2 wide. Not going to work, unfortunately, for Mark.
Yeah, it's a difficult incident there. That was kind of like what happened in the British Grand Prix in 2023, where Guan Yu Zhou had an extreme crash, right? Where he kind of had the driver, the black car there, kind of sandwiched between two drivers ahead, not quite 3 wide, but you can't really brake, right? You can't really let off the gas on lap number 1 and lose track position. So you just try to stick your nose in there, and then the 2 drivers close in. I mean, one of these drivers is going to spin around because it's basically just a pit maneuver. And unfortunately, that right leader is going to be the one to come out of that one hurt the most.
Like how you referenced the GP there, and taking a look at our driver cams today, we got Anna Marie and David. Oh, they're going at it. Matter of fact, Anna Marie going off track there. David Anderson going to continue, but man, right as we were hopped on board with DePascal there, that number 10, I think I said number 18 earlier, but man, running 11th now after that incident out of New Jersey. And David Anderson up 2 spots. How about Paul Darling up 7 spots since the start of the race?
Yeah, most importantly, I mean, it's still Michael. It's the top 5 that you really have to watch out here, especially that position number 4 of Enrico Gregorado and then number 5 Chad Henson, right? 2 championship leaders here vying for right next to each other, tied on points. So anyone who ends up ahead here is going to go into the last round with an advantage for the championship. So that top 5 is definitely going to be the golden zone. We got to keep our eyes out to this race here.
Especially between these 2 point runners. It's funny that they're still running nose to tail, race 5 out of this 6-race season. So lots of pace being shown between these guys throughout the whole season. Check out Paul, man, right there on Chad's back bumper. Almost got to it on their on corner entry there. Scared me for a second.
Yeah, definitely, especially with these Porsche Cup cars. I mean, throughout this, with a track like this, 3.6 miles, a lot of twisted corners that require a lot of downforce and aero input. These cars are very light, very fast, and very nimble. So you go into these corner sections, right, especially the S turns and corners like 200R and 130R. I mean, drivers are going to be encouraged because these cars are nimble. They're going to be small and light enough. You go side by side and to stick it through these corners where they are very demanding in terms of downforce.
Really good side-by-side battle heading into the last corners. Oh, driver's going to get loose as that. Who was... Oh, man, Brett just barely keeping it out of the wall. I think maybe saw that on just the side of your screen there, but, oh, that could have been a race ender for Brett, barely keeping it on track.
Yeah, almost had to opt to go through the pit lane there, had enough space to go onto the grass and rejoin the track safely. So just goes to show you how difficult it is to try and go side by side on track like this. It's very technically demanding. Let's take a look at this one again. Go side by side here, no contact, but the corner just kind of opens up. It is not enough space for you to put your power down. And when you put power down too early like that, you don't have the space for it. Yeah, look at how close that was. Oh my God, almost turned into the wall there.
Oh,
Actually hit,
man.
Yeah, hit the barrier there, hit the barrier block there. Fortunately, avoiding major damage. So very risky maneuver to try and rejoin the track.
We have Enrico and then Chad right behind. Paul still there, not able to make the move on Chad yet, but lots of pace between these top 5, even top 6 running drivers. David Anderson still there running P7 up 2 spots, but man, Chad's got to be getting a little nervous here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a one-on-one race basically.
Ooh, there was the
mean,
move. Sorry to cut you off. Happened right
there
when we cut to the onboard there. Take another look. Ooh.
Yeah, trying to stick on around the rear bumper, but on that long-winded corner, 200R right there, it's kind of just it's really difficult to follow, especially when you have the advantage. It's probably better to try and pull alongside and get a bit of clean air rather than trying to stick it through because in a corner that's long-winded like that, it's very unpredictable to know how fast your car actually is compared to your opponent. But then we see another overtake there down the at the chicane section. Jared Skinner got to pull ahead of Eric Reno there. Great move, just going around the inside, takes a position now, runs off into the distance.
Very nice move there as we are going to again look. Oh, I thought Anna Marie was going to maybe look down the inside, Eric, but think better of it now. Right on the back bumper of that 666 machine. Oh, man, these drivers with our driver cams today showing pace. And man, thanks for showing the old faces here today, as that just adds that much more to the broadcast. And man, David Anderson. Nice lap last time by, putting down a 206. I mean, comparing that to Michael Parker, though, up here in the lead, a 203 last lap by. Wow. Long laps here at Suzuka. What is it, 18 turns?
It's 17 turns. It just kind of goes to show you how big the gap can be. We have a driver like Michael Parker who has started from pole, has gotten clean air throughout the entire race, is managing to put down not only good lap time but also pull gap to the drivers behind here. I mean, when you're in the pack here at Suzuka, it's a little bit more difficult considering you have to go through these corners all the time and having to take the dirty air of the driver ahead on a track like this as well.
Right,
the
as
corners
you
are very
mentioned it,
bended,
Paul had to
but
fight
hurt
that
a lot. Exactly. It's just the draft effect is very much amplified by how these corners are set up. You have to follow the car very tightly ahead of you throughout the entire corner, and sometimes that hurts you a lot.
So you're really trying to follow Chad to the slower corners here, really abusing those what's left of the off track there. I don't think got an incident, and now we have Michael Parker setting the fastest lap of the race, 2:03.1.
Yeah, the main thing we still have to watch out here as we see once again this fight between Paul Darling and Chad Hansen still raging on. This is exactly what we need to keep our eyes on, because ahead of them, of course, is Enrico Gagarado in 4th place position. So if Paul Darling can just keep this pressure on Chad Hansen here, it's going to benefit Enrico a lot. And remember, of course, there's these two drivers, Chad Hansen and Enrico Gagarado, your 2 leaders in the championship. So this fight between 5th, 6th, and 7th here can almost certainly have a huge impact, if not determine the whole championship.
It's interesting you bring that up, because look at the gaps between these 2 front runners, not between themselves, but Enrico right on Mark's back bumper, and then, Chad's dealing with Paul back here just a bit more. But that's, like you said, it can just happen. Things can happen so quickly, especially in these Porsche Cup cars. Super long track here at Suzuka. Gosh, really got to keep things clean coming to the last race of the season. Next race, Nürburgring GP. While we have a second, I'd like to thank our sponsors, SimRace 247, Xbox Game Pass, Penguin RC, for making this coverage possible, and for you guys joining there on YouTube chat. Couldn't do this without all of you guys. Subscribe. Show me how much our broadcasts mean to you. Got Paul Darling still right on the back bumper. And Toka, do you remember where Paul is sitting in the championship points? I might have to bring it up again as he's trying to run wide. Still there on back. Oh, here we go. Move down the inside, misses the braking zone, runs the alternate version of the track.
Yeah, that's basically what is the runoff area there. That in effect is actually the alternate setup of the track. Yeah, just dives in the pit there, seemingly taking quite a bit of damage, so opting to go for that fast repair. Remember, the drivers are allowed 1 fast repair. Just carrying way too much speed and missed the braking point. And I mean, the driver ahead of him just kind of pulled alongside to avoid that one. And yeah, Paul went into the pits there. So that fight is over there. We were kind of worrying for a moment there, maybe how Paul Darling could actually affect the championship leaders, despite the fact that he himself is in number 15th place in the championship. So not really that much to gain for him, right, in the grand scheme of things, but could definitely affected that if not for that incident.
Take a look at some more incidents that have happened as we've just been too busy covering battles on track. James Andrew, this was a lap, I believe last lap, his white and teal Porsche Cup car, running 11th at the moment of the incident, and hey, same corner right there, just locks it up and has to take that alternate route, keeping it straight, then going to serve the slowdown.
Yeah, it's not quite a tricky corner, but I mean, it's a corner where drivers will always try and carry as much speed as they can because it's not a very sharp corner, so you can do that, but you still have to tap the brake. And Donald Seapack there, I don't know what really happened. It has kind of misstepped a little bit, stepped on the grass, the wheel spun out. I think just kind of tried to put the power down a little bit too
Ooh.
early. The drivetrain didn't cooperate, went on the grass, and really dangerous rejoin there. 3 drivers back to back had to avoid Donald Seapack there. Could have been another major incident that could have led to the end of the race for one of those drivers. Luckily, nobody nobody getting into contact there. Super dangerous situation there. Very dangerous rejoin.
Yeah, dangerous rejoin. I mean, just dangerous place to spin overall. Yeah, that was pretty tough for everybody involved there. But we're getting through it. We are almost halfway to go here in Suzuka. David, Eric, Anna Marie, Brett. Throw a blanket over these 4 drivers for 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. Nice running there for everybody coming out running these Porsche Cup cars as no traction control or ABS. Such a tough car to get a handle on, try and get around a track, especially one like Suzuka. So many turns, having to do these turns for 30 minutes too. Man, it's quite an adventure, I would imagine. Enrico starting to gain, or excuse me, Mark is starting to gain a little bit of a gap on Enrico, and then Chad Henson not having to deal with Paul on his back bumper anymore can kind of take a breather. Is right as I mentioned it, that looks like Paul taking, or excuse me, Chad taking that bumper or the curb just a little bit aggressive, but still rolling here.
Yeah, it's interesting here because these drivers are kind of settled into this position where, I mean, they're just kind of following each other, right? When you have these gaps that are just a little bit over 1 second, meaning you're not really affected by the dirty air, and at the same time, you're not really taking the slipstream of the driver ahead. So you're kind of just basically following each other and then going on raw pace and try and catch up. And when it comes to this, and then you have drivers like Chad Henson, like Enrico Gregorado, who has kind of fought each other the entire way through the championship, is so close to each other, evidently by the fact that they are tied on points. I mean, their pace is going to be quite similar, and when they have a gap like this, around 2 seconds, I mean, they're not going to gain on each other at all, right? They're just going to maintain this position, and unless something big can happen, they're not going to get close to each other.
You're exactly right, and champion motorsports, it's in the name. These guys are champions, and they have that in the back of their minds. They're where they're running in the standings and just trying to keep a clean race on them. And mentioned it before, now with Paul not really bothering Chad at all, like you said, Toka, it's going to be hard for one to get a gap over the other. On Gab Chavez, though, a really good run today, sitting P2nd, gained a spot since the start. I believe that was on the start. Oh, man. Oh, man. Commentator curse.
Massive incident here. Gab Chavez spinning out and heading just front light first into the wall. Still managing to get the car rolling, but might have to head into pits here.
Did he just get on the grass on exit? Rumble
No, he just put the power. Yeah, it's just
okay.
putting power down too early and oversteer there. Yeah, a lot of these corners in Suzuka, they are very power sensitive, right? When you get out at the exit of a corner, a lot of these drivers are tempted to put the power down early because the fact is the approach for most of the drivers is to carry a lot of speed and put the power down as soon as the corner goes straight, and that's exactly what happens when you don't wait for your car to go straight and then put the power down, right? You go when you're not quite out of the exit yet, and you try to put the power down. I mean, your back is going to give out and oversteer like that. Especially the approach these drivers are taking. I mean, they are trying to take the most of the track, you just extend the track limits, right? Just go on these rumble strips as much as they can to increase their lap or decrease their lap time.
James Andrew, he's only lost a spot since the start of the race, but right back on the back bumpers of Donald and Brett there in front of him. I think he's got the pace to get around him as we are just now rounding 13, or coming to 13 minutes to go. Still enough time in the race for James to get back up to P11 possibly, and then that gap about 4 seconds in front of these guys up to David Anderson. Our biggest mover of the race, Eric, in that 666, running 7th place right now. Up 8 spots since the start, actually tied with Jarrett Skinner, both gaining 8 spots since the start of the race. And this is something that we've seen all season with these guys. They have the clean race open to them, getting a little bit of clean air, and just keep continuing to gain spots as the race goes on. Pretty cool run for Jarrett and as well as Eric so far.
Yeah, and I think we just kind of focus a little bit on the championship leaders, right? Rightfully so, considering the situation in the championship that they're tied on points. But throughout the race, a lot of the drivers have kind of just been making these subtle moves, right? When following those drivers ahead of them, they're behind them. They're making 1 or 2 moves. These positions are changing. They're not happening that often, but they are happening. It's a bit unlucky we haven't been able to catch them. But let's watch out for this one here. Enrico Higuerado here approaching onto the back of Mark Johnson here. The gap already decreasing. Then only 3/10 now onto the back straight here into the spoon section. It's very close. Enrico can tend to move down anywhere here. Perhaps potentially down into the chicane. Hopefully is the best overtaking spot if you have the slipstream of the driver in front of you. So Mark Johnson's gonna have to watch out there as we approach that.
Yeah, man, Mark kind of in that sandwich between Enrico in that sandwich of Mark and Chad, because, man, you can't lose too much time to Mark here because Chad is only 5 seconds back. That is more than enough time to come back in this short Porsche Cup race. So, yeah, already in the same camera shot as well.
Yeah, great point that you bring up, because I mean, if Mark Johnson puts up a defense here and Chad Henson Enrico gets into this battle with Mark Johnson, right, and just kind of slow each other down, does give the opportunity for Chad Henson to catch back up. If that's the case, then this championship fight is gonna go down to the wire of this round number 5 Suzuka race. But so far, I mean, it's been Enrico kind of staying with Mark Johnson, just kind of seeing if he can get enough speed, get enough of a run, trying to move down. I don't think he'll try and move down here. Turn 1, not really that good for the overtake. You go side by side here. We see drivers have tried before in this race. It kind of ends up disastrous more than when it ends up good.
Yeah, you can see on the bottom right of the screen, looks like Gregorato faster lap 7, 8, but a little bit slower lap 9, because he's there at this point within the dirty air. And then now, this is what our big comparison is. Enrico, Chad lap times. Chad Henson slower lap, looks like 6, 7, 8, and 9. So maybe Chad just kind of keeping the wheels on, but I do see he's closed that gap by just 2/10 now. So it is never too late for Chad to have that pace and be able to make a comeback on Enrico here. But mentioned it early, Toka. It's going to be hard to make a move in the point standings if you're finishing like the point standings are already running, one behind the other.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be a huge gap. Another point I want to bring up here is perhaps Enrico is trying to think tactically in terms of the championship, right? There's no reason for Enrico, like tactically speaking, to try and send moves down the inside and fight Mark Johnson, especially if he doesn't have a good run, right? Doing that is only going to hurt his race, only going to allow Chad Henson cash back up, right? So I think what he's thinking right now is just maintain that gap with Chad Henson behind, try and get the points advantage to your championship leader, to your championship rival. All Mark Johnson is doing is dragging Enrico Gregorato along, right? That dirty air is only going to affect you if you try to overtake the car ahead. It's not going to come into effect if you are just backing off, maintaining the pace, sticking to that slipstream, and letting the driver ahead of you drag you along, right? It's evident by the fact that the gap hasn't really increased at all. Enrico not really pushing for the overtake, but rather just sticking to the back bumper of Mark Johnson to extend the gap to Chad Henson and not allow his championship rival to fight for extra points against him.
Michael Parker, Mark Johnson, Enrico Gregorado. These drivers must love Suzuka here because don't think I've seen really any off tracks of any of these drivers running in the top three. Yeah, look at this battle. Enrico, oh man, he's got to be in the back of his mind here. You have the gap to work with, but trying to maybe look on the outside or set up these next few sets of corners. Wow, this is honestly shocking me just a little bit.
Absolutely here. I mean, just kind of looking down the inside any way he can. I mean, this track is just wide enough to go too wide into these corners, right? But it's pretty difficult if you're not fully ahead, right? You have to go pull side by side, car to car to have a chance. But if you're just like halfway behind, halfway side by side, it really is difficult to work out. So Enrico, I mean, looks like he has the pace to catch back up and even overtake Mark Johnson, go for a move, but he has to be very careful about how he approaches this because one wrong move, as we've seen throughout this race for many other drivers, can turn disastrous and put you on the grass really quickly.
That it can and that it will. We've seen it one too many times this race with other drivers. That gap is still the exact same as last time I looked. Now 4.7 seconds. Enrico lost just a little bit there on coming to the last corner. Now up towards, thus Suzuka has two pit entries here. Yeah, I think they do. So that, God, the lines painted on the track kind of threw me for a loop. Here we come to the chicane here. And Enrico still not able to make the pass on Mark Johnson, but at the back bumper.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing to focus on here is just the fact that Enrico is just not really that committed, right? We see him kind of pull alongside sometimes, look to see if he can get a move, but as soon as he recognizes that he might not have, might not have a solid chance, right? It might be a 30% chance to overtake Mark Johnson. He just backs off immediately, right? He's just not going to go for these risks.
Well said.
He understands who's behind him. He understands the gravity of what it means in the championship if he just finishes ahead of his rival, right? So he's not going to go for these unnecessary risks to just gain one position.
If you are just now joining us, take a look at these point standings. It's so close. It's been close throughout the whole season. There you see Enrico, Chad, and then Michael Parker just a little bit behind our two front runners. But, man, that's what we've kind of been focusing on this whole race as we continue to tick down towards, well, the next race is our final race at Nürburgring GP. So, going to be interesting as we have a great overhead view of the track. And just look how long this thing is. It's almost 6 kilometers. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Man, Enrico still behind Mark and then Chad. That gap has now grown even more, 5.3 seconds now to Enrico. So maybe Chad just kind of toning things down, knowing that he's not going to push this thing into a tire lockup and into a tire barrier.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're Chad Henson, right? At this point, you've run, 10 minutes behind your championship rival, right? You run 10 minutes here in clean air, nobody in front of you, nobody behind you. It's been a lonely race so far. You understand that, hey, I know what the game is for the guy ahead of me, right? I know Enrico is just chilling here, just standing in gaps. And at this point, I mean, in his head, he's just gonna go, all right, if that's the case, then I'll just drive safe, not avoid any incidents, just keep the position, because I mean, it's only gonna be a small gap, right? It's only one position, the difference heading into last race if things maintain here. And David Anderson, we see here two drivers back to back, James Andrew as well. Again, seeing a lot of drivers, right, coming out of that final corner, that turn 17, out of that hairpin, carrying way too much speed and then going off the runoff area through the gravel, in fact, as well.
Totally just invites you just to carry more speed in there than you think. And yeah, you miss your braking marker by 5-10 meters, and a lockup will ensue on that front left, front right. David Anderson, Donald James running nose to tail here as we approach 4 minutes to go. But man, Toka, what have you seen today? Kind of anything of note? I know that Enrico, he came in with the championship lead. Going to leave with the championship lead is if things continue where they are currently running. Anything else that you've kind of taken note of?
I think one of the biggest point in this race today has been the fact that it's very difficult to follow these cars, right? You can see again and again how unstable it is, right? When you ride on board of the drivers behind, you have the driver right in front of you, just 1/10, 2/10 gap. Is how difficult it is to put your car through this corner. So you have the dirty air right in front of you, and on a track like this, with these cars that that doesn't have that much aero capability, but are in fact quite nimble and light, it ends up being a situation where any amount of dirty air can throw these cars off by a huge margin, compared to other cars that might be a little bit heavier, right? So throughout this entire race, we've seen time and time again, these drivers try and follow each other super close through the corners. It gets unstable really quickly, and a lot of times you get into incidents simply because of that. You're not able to control your car through a corner, maybe you hit the driver in front of you, give him a little love tap, or you run a little bit too wide on rumble strip, right? You get into dirty air, and your car's off on the grass within a second. You're not able to respond quickly enough.
Things happening so fast as we are already approaching. This is going to be the white flag this time by for our drivers. So, man, Michael Parker has really put on a clinic for everybody today. 7.5-second gap. Wow. Wonder if he's running in our iRTES series that follows. Will be on Apex Racing TV. As he's got the pace here today in Suzuka. Stick on board with him here. Just should be approaching the start-finish line. I thought here, I'm not the biggest fan of Suzuka, but man, Michael Parker must be Mark Johnson
You can't
P2.
see that. That's heresy. You can't see that. You can't say you're not a big fan of Suzuka.
Well, I got to put it on the schedule. Totally, because as I've seen today, the racing that is put on, and only just a quick 30-minute race, is this gap for P11 is still raging on 29 minutes into the race. Yeah, shoot, we might be seeing this in GT4 versus NASCAR. This is a great track, and yeah, I need to do some more history on this place.
Yeah, okay. Gotta watch out for that 3-car race there between David Anton, Donald Schipek, and James Andrew here. These 3 cars are so close to each other, heading into what is essentially the last lap of the race here. We haven't seen the white flag because we've been following this fight, but Donald Schipek right behind David Anton, right behind them as well James Andrew. I mean, any of these cars, sooner will these guys go for a move onto David Anderson, right? It's gonna open up a gap for James Andrew as well. I mean, we'll see what happens here. But these cars, I mean, they're so close. I mean, you kind of already know, right? When heading into the final laps of a race like this, you're a lot more aggressive. You're a lot more willing to take these risks because you know you don't have any more chances. And when these cars are following each other so close like this, you never know what can happen, especially with dirty and how this track is set up for the aero wash to affect you big time. Let's see what happens here.
David Anderson leading this 3-car battle, or what I thought was 3, now it's 2.
Yeah, what happened to James Andrew here? I think
Let's.
he might have gotten into the situation.
Oh, he did. Oh my gosh. Was it on the rumble strips or on power like we've seen one too many times today from drivers? It's on power again.
Yeah, exactly. It's always corner exit. It's very hard because you carry a lot of speed, and because the track is so wide and the corners very long and it opens up very quickly, you get under the illusion that you can put the power down. You have to always wait for the wheels to go straight before you put it down. And it just happens. I mean, it's the illusion of Suzuka. I mean, we've seen all drivers of all sort of class it happens to them all the time. This track is very power sensitive. It's very easy to oversteer, evident by the fact that we've seen a dozen drivers do that today.
Especially no TC, no ABS. Looks like Jacques here. So we should be getting the checkered flag this time by for Michael Parker and Mark Johnson, as well as Enrico. Oh, just runs a little bit wide on corner entry there. Man, Michael Parker, I know we haven't focused on him too much today. Too many battles on track here, but this should solidify it if he's able to get around this lap. Wow, he put down fastest lap of the session last time by a 2:03.05, almost 2:03 flat. We've seen the pace. If you got Michael Parker running against you in iRTES coming up, man, look out. That number 23's got the pace here. 9-second gap from Michael Parker to back to Mark Johnson. That'll solidify it. Checkered flag is out. Michael Parker, P1 here at Suzuka, Japan.
Michael Parker's going to take a dominant win there, coming home to take the podium as Mark Johnson has had a brilliant race as well. Had very good pace. Enrico Gregorado playing the long game, playing the position, going to come home to take the final position on the podium. Chad Hansen, his rival in the championship, coming home right behind in fourth. So this is going to even heat up the race for the championship even further. Behind them, fifth, Gab Chavez. Sixth, and Jared Skinner lost one place in the position from the start there. In seventh, Eric Bueno. In eighth, Anne-Marie De Pascali, who had a very good race of her own there. In ninth, going to be Mark Reed. Had that, remember, massive incident in the at the start of the race, but has managed to recover back to ninth place. 10th, Brett Stephens. 11th, David Anderson. And 12th, Donald Chipek, who off back that fight we thought were close, but ultimately it's going to be settled there. And James Andrew, who fell off back of that 3-car train to come home and take position number 13. Behind them, Warren McGarry, Jack Reacher, and finally Paul Darling, who was what we thought was gonna affect the championship big time, but had incidents, ultimately pitted, and is gonna come home being lapped here.
That would have been a huge storyline, no matter whose fault it could have been, either Paul's or Chad's. But maybe maybe that's a blessing in disguise or something that we had an incident, Paul really just got too deep in one of those corners.
Does mean that if the way it plays out like this does mean that we're gonna come into the final round of this championship at Nürburgring in the GP configuration with these two drivers still neck and neck in terms of the points, right? Essentially, Enrico finishing ahead like this means that he can come into the final race as long as he finishes ahead of Chad Hansen. He wins the championship, and for Chad, he needs to beat Enrico. And it's going to just heat up the situation for the championship here even further.
What a race, and oh boy, put that last race, Nürburgring GP, on your calendar. We're going to need to see how this all pans out just a couple weeks time. We're gonna get these top 3 drivers in here for an interview. Stick with us here. Michael Parker, Mark Johnson, Enrico. If you guys are listening, hang with us 1 second. We'll get you dragged up in the booth here. Toka, sorry for that start there, technical difficulties, but did get it all squared away. Let's see if I can do this here. Michael Parker, Eric, how you guys doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, thank you.
Man, Michael, oh my gosh, what pace here today, ending the race with a 9-second gap. Man, was it all practice? Is it just feeling in the car? Walk us through kind of your pre-race routine, man. What fuel you running? I don't know. How did you do it?
Yeah, it's actually a lack of practice, but I had some GT3 racing yesterday, and then I'm going to be in a GT3 in about 20 minutes today. So I just flow with this track, honestly. I like Suzuka.
Man, it looked like it there today, and even off the start, looked like just got a huge start, able to run away with that lead. Anybody you'd like to thank? Anybody that makes this possible for you today?
I mean, as always, thank my wife for letting me do this really early in the morning. And of course, Champion Motorsports, David, the team, you as well. Thank you for doing these streams and keeping it entertaining for all of us to watch.
Yeah, of course. That means a lot. Toka, you got anything for Michael?
No, that's good. Congratulations on the win there, Michael. It's going to help you a little bit in the championship as the championship fight heats up into the fight, coming into the final round of the championship.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. I think Enrico and Chad will be gunning for it. I'm just making up points as I can.
Well, congratulations. See who else we have able to join us today. Eric joined us. Eric, you got a copy? I think Eric's a bit busy still. Searching the Discord here. making sure not missing anybody. Well, congratulations everybody on running Suzuka today, even completing it. Such a long, tough technical track. Toka, thank you for joining me up in the booth. And join us next time for that championship race at Nürburgring GP. My name's Sean. Toka up in the booth for joining me. I have to go head out to Circuit of the Americas. NASCAR is here in Austin, Texas. So I'm going to get out of here. Thanks again for joining me. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button. We'll see you next time.